Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Manders Mindset. I'm your host, Amanda Russo, and I'm here today with Ashley Farias. Ashley and I first got connected about 2 years ago when I heard her on one of my friends' podcasts. Then I followed her on Instagram, and I have learned a lot about fitness, nutrition, motivation, and everything in between from Ashley in the past 2 years. So I knew she would be a great guest to have on the show, and I'm here with Ashley today.
Hi. Yes, so I'm Ashley. I just opened up a gym this past year, although I have been personal training for since I was probably 19, 20. I'm now 27. And most of my job is me helping people look good, feel good, and trying to make those changes in their life stick. And it's been the best decision I've ever made. I love doing what I do. I don't think I could see myself doing anything else.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing.
Thanks. Thank you.
So you kind of answered this a little bit, but I'm going to ask it anyway. First question is, who is Ashley at the core? You kind of explained what you do. A lot of people tend to answer this with that, but when you hear the question, who is Ashley? What does
Mhm.
that mean to you?
Like in a general sense, not relating to my career.
You can relate it to the career, you don't have to.
Wow. Wow, we're starting off guns blazing. Okay. I love this. So, who is Ashley? Ashley is just another person trying to figure out what she's doing in the world and hopefully that she leaves it in a better place than, she entered it with. And I'm constantly just trying to find ways to improve my health physically, but also mentally. And that can be just with, strengthening relationships, my view of myself, daily habits, um, and finding little pleasures in life. I just really, a lot of people always kind of go out and find something crazy and fun to do that give them like this is great. And honestly, I'm just a really simple person. I find simple pleasures in like a morning coffee, a daily stroll. I am that girl that looks at the moon is like, oh my God, let me take a picture of that, you know? Um, but I'm also a little bit of a dork. I love my little cartoons. I definitely get nostalgic on a daily basis. I play my video games. I like to go outside and roller skate, especially a lot more these days. Ashley is just figuring it out. I feel like I change every year, but for the most part, my core is just doing my best. I really am trying to lift myself up and everyone else. I'm sorry, that sounds so cheesy, but it's the reality of what I feel is what I do.
No, it's not cheesy. I was thinking that's so sweet. I love
Thank
that.
you. Thank
I love
you.
that.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
I just like to listen to people too. I feel like everyone needs to be heard a little bit. So I'm always just trying to see what's out there with people in life. Yeah. I learn a
that's
lot
great.
from talking to people, honestly.
I completely agree. Haven't done that many of these, but I've learned a lot in just a handful of podcasts myself.
Oh man. Well, you're in for like a lot of learning then if you're just getting started.
That's
That's good
very
for you though. That's great.
that is true. So you've talked a little bit about your career, where you are now. Can you tell us a little bit about your family dynamic, your childhood, your upbringing, and how you kind of got to where you are now? Whatever you're comfortable with that.
Um, hmm, sure. Where do I even start? I guess as a kid, hmm. So I have a twin sister, fun fact. And I did everything with her growing up. And one thing we always did was draw. I spent hours and hours drawing and drawing. I'm talking like buckets full of notepads of drawings. And just spent a lot of time like alone with her, connecting and growing and exploring. I have two very loving parents. They were great. And I think, as with anybody in this generation, obviously those parents might have had issues that they weren't aware of. And therefore, everyone has a little bit of childhood trauma. Not everyone, but I'm sure a lot of people do. Um, and so as I got into my teenage years, especially my late teen years, things got a little rocky. I grew up obviously having a great childhood, but I was also overweight and unhealthy. And at one point, I was like sick and tired of it. And I was like, I'm gonna do something. And that was like simply starting with adding more broccoli. I literally was so scared to ask my dad to buy me some broccoli from the grocery store. And he didn't even bat an eye. He was like, yeah, sure. And I was like, oh, it's that easy. I can just do that. So, that was great. And I started with that. I learned how to start cooking at home. And then I started going like doing Pilates at home and exploring fitness in different realms, whether I was going for a jog, like little Zumba classes. Like I tried dipping my toe wherever I could do. But then at one point, I know now what I didn't know before is that I definitely have an obsessive personality. Um, I have ADHD, so I will hyper focus on things, but I'm also super space cadet, like out there in the clouds. When I do focus on something, I'm zoned in. So I eventually was able to lose a ton of weight. And then I got really skinny and unhealthy at the same time that my family and I were struggling a little bit. My dad and I had a bit of a tough relationship. We're great now. I ended up going to therapy and squared that away. But it definitely took a toll on my late teenage years and my mental health. And I think that was when I realized how important like not just like obviously looking good and losing weight was important, but like your head, what's going on in here and controls your body. Everything else is just as important, if not more. And so I really thought at that time, I was totally into fitness. But I was really passionate about art, right? So my whole life drawing. I was going to go to college and work for Disney. So I went to college right next to Disney. And like halfway through, I decided, nope, this isn't for me. I would literally be listening to lectures in class while reading studies about like health and fitness or muscles, whatever, anything that I could find online. I was obsessed. And then that was like one day I walked out of the class. I cried because I realized the mistake that I had made, dropped out the next day. And then the next week, I applied for a gym and got the job there. So it was just like the craziest transition ever, but totally worth it. And ever since then, I've just been exploring different realms of fitness. I started studying to be a personal trainer at like 19, 20. And I worked at a, corporate gym. I worked at many corporate gyms hopping back and forth. I also competed in powerlifting at one point. That was fun. Until I had a really bad injury. That wasn't fun. But that injury was also another lesson about myself. I learned that, there's a lot more than just lifting weights. Movement is pretty important in many realms. Like it's not just about how heavy can you squat, how heavy can you deadlift, and how big are my muscles. Right. I realized should probably learn how to use my body properly if I want to live a long life without pain. So that was great. But it also taught me how like to help other people, because believe it or not, most people, like young people, like I'm talking teenagers, early 20s, they're dealing with some type of chronic pain. I've had teenagers come to me with back pain. I've had people in their 20s say they have neck pain, shoulder pain. So it's like my injury was a catalyst for figuring out how the body works, which ended up helping me help others.
Mm.
So then that got me into the realm of like, I went from like strong and looking good to like functional fitness and how do these body parts work. And then I eventually went to college in Bridgewater and I finished my degree there. I did an internship in Boston at Mike Boyle's. I don't know if you know that gym.
Don't.
Most people don't, unless you're like really into fitness. But they're pretty famous because they've had Olympic athletes there that they train. I think they've trained the Boston Bruins at some point. So they were famous in that way. And I knew that if I got my foot in the door there, it would get me everywhere else, which it did. And that was my first like experience with working with a group of people. Um, yeah. And then from there, I just started working at other gyms, kind of like getting myself out there, getting the experience that I could. I worked with kids, I worked with adults, I worked with teenagers, I worked with elderly people, which sent me down into this path, which I'm now at, which is opening my own gym and working with just the general person, like the average person. I didn't want to work with athletes. I realized I don't like working with athletes. They're great, but I have zero interest. Kids are also great, but I personally feel like kids should just be moving around and playing. I don't think kids should be lifting weights. That age, I was jump roping, I was riding my bike, I was roller skating, and I think that's only fair. Like let a kid live its life and go out and do just a bunch of things. So then my next option was, all right, I like working with average people who are like me, who just are trying to figure out their way in the world and trying to improve their health with zero clue in what that takes. So yeah, that's how I got here. I don't know if that answered any of your question. I got lost in that explanation.
That is totally okay. That is totally okay. That was great. That was super informative and that was great. I do have a lot of questions based on that. Um, I'll start with the first one that came to mind. You
Sure.
mentioned that you started just by asking your dad to buy broccoli. Was that the only thing you changed at the beginning? Was
Yep.
more broccoli? No,
Because I was raised, listen, I used to get 20-piece chicken McNuggets every night. Okay. I didn't eat a single vegetable until I literally asked. And I was like, hey, I want to try broccoli. Because I had been scrolling through Tumblr and I kept seeing these fit people post about broccoli and carrots or whatever. And I'm like, this broccoli thing looks kind of good. I want to try it. So it was like
so
the
you had
simplest. What?
so you had never ever had broccoli before that time? Like
No,
ever?
no. My diet was awful growing up. I didn't like vegetables. I was the girl that would like dip the chip in the salsa and like wiggle all the chunks out. You know what I'm saying?
I did that too.
Yeah, exactly. So I did that with everything. If I had like a seafood paella or like that rice that usually you'll see in like ethnic foods that has like peas and carrots in it, hated it, couldn't stand it. I just like my rice plain the way it is. So asking for broccoli was a huge step. And then it was, asking for Greek yogurt or asking for like a grilled food instead of this, like little things like that.
Mhm.
That was the first steps that I took.
Okay. Honestly, in my opinion, I feel like that tends to help starting slowly as opposed to everybody wants to start and do it all at once. And then sometimes it's harder to be successful by changing everything.
Oh, sometimes, girl, all the times. It's just like, and I hate that there's like all these trends, like at 45 or 30-day this. It's like, it's unrealistic. You're throwing yourself into a dumpster fire, is really what you're doing. You have to test the waters. You have to see what you can handle. You have to see what you like. If you do everything at worst, like at first, you're just gonna burn out. You're gonna be exhausted and you're gonna feel like, I can't do this because it's too hard. Well, yeah, of course it's too hard. You're trying to change your life in one day.
No, I completely agree. When I first began my fitness journey, super overweight, was eating just literally whatever. When I first joined the gym, the trainer's like, "Oh, you've got to add more protein, do this." I didn't change my diet even a single thing for the first 2 months, not one thing. I
Mm-hmm.
started drinking more water because I was moving more. That's it. Because I knew if I try to change all of this, it's not going to work. And mentally, I'm just going to be too overwhelmed and I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. Wow, that's kudos to you because I didn't even know that. I was just too scared to change everything at once. I was like, I'm gonna try this broccoli and hope that it works out.
Because I had a trainer to even tell me, he was like, "You're not going to see results if you only go to the gym and don't change your diet." And I said, "Well, we'll see what happens."
Wow. I mean, okay, so I understand why he would say that.
No,
But
I do as well, but at the same time, I said I can't change everything at once because I know I have obsessive personality as well, like you, and I'm gonna be too crazy with it.
yep.
Like I'm not gonna chill. When I started first going to the gym, there were days I went 3 times a day. Like the trainer had
Wow.
yes, the trainer had to say to me, Amanda, I know you love being here, but and I'm like, I know.
He's like, go enjoy your life, please.
I would have a day off from work and I would be there 3 times.
Oh my gosh. Girl, you're like those cross, if not worse at this point.
I know. So that's also why I knew I can't change the diet and add the gym and add water and add because and I'm going to be overwhelmed and then I'm going to quit it all.
Yeah,
Not that that should be the answer, but I knew myself and I was just let me form the habit and create the habit of the gym. Once I have this habit readily instilled in me, we'll change the diet.
absolutely. 10 out of 10 would recommend that. That's what I tell every like consult that I get or client that starts. Like, I am not telling you to change anything other than showing up at the gym and for the amount of days that you said you would. And I wouldn't even tell them how many days. I'm like, how many days do you think you can show up at the gym, right? And they're like, oh, I don't know. What should I do? And I'm like, no, no, no. The question I ask is, how many days do you think you can show up? And they're always
Mm-hmm.
like flabbergasted. They're like, I guess I can do like 2 or 3. And I'm like, great, let's start with 2. Because most
Mm-hmm.
people will overestimate what they can do, which is,
Yeah,
you
that
know,
too.
I love that they're motivated at first, but it clouds their judgment a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And then it's going to lead into disappointment if you aren't able to do what you said or don't do what you said.
Yep. Yep. Even even myself, I recently started roller skating in the past year and I wasn't really committing to doing like 5 days of roller skating. I just told myself, you just have to roller skate for 2 times a week. And I know it's going to be hard to just get your feet out the door and get those skates on and find a place to roller skate, but let's just try it 2 times a week. It doesn't have to be, it could be 10 minutes, could be 30, could be 40. And I really would honestly just start with 10 minutes of roller skating just to get into that habit. And then slowly but surely, my 10 minutes would turn to 30 minutes. Then I would turn it to 45 to an hour. And I was like, oh, this is like nothing now. Now I want to do this 3 or 4 days a week.
Yep.
So
As you build.
with any habit that you really want to build, you really do have to start so small, way smaller than people think.
Mm-hmm. That's like, oh, what is the book? I read a book. Maybe it might be Atomic Habits, but
I was just gonna say, is it Atomic Habits? Because I
I
have that
did
book in my drawer.
I read a few on habits, so I'm trying to remember which one said it, to be honest. But he even talked about, even with starting to go to the gym, put your shoes out and just walk as if you're walking out the door, even if you don't actually go. You're slowly starting the habit. Get the clothes ready. You're dressed for the, like, even before you go. And then I read somewhere, I think it was a different book or an article about go to the gym for 2 minutes. Tell yourself you're going to go to the gym for 2 minutes. I would go to the gym for 2 minutes. But it's the fact you went, you did the habit, you showed up.
Yep.
And the consistency, showing yourself, you can keep promises to yourself that
That's it, right? It's actually sticking to your own word. You can rely on yourself.
mhm,
I
even for
have
smaller things. Like majority of the time I would make my bed, but there would be a day here and there when I wouldn't. Well, it's been a long time now, but I even have an app that I track like my habits in, and I've been doing it for almost 200 days now. Every single morning, I make my bed, and it's something super small and minuscule, but I'm keeping the promise to myself that I will make my bed every single day before I leave.
oh my God, I just started doing that these past 2 months. Like
Really?
Yes, I did. It's the same principle. It's like, I really don't like coming home and seeing it messy. It's just not comforting, not inviting. And I've been practicing getting up earlier. So I'm like, okay, every time I get up before I leave the house, that bed must be made. And it's not even like it's that I don't move around in my sleep. I literally just have to move the blankets and put the pillows in the proper places. But it's
Hmm.
this simple act of being able to do that. It's like, I can keep my word, just like you said. And then it also, right? So that's the other thing that's really cool about it is now that you're keeping your word and doing these things, you are seeing yourself as the person you are trying to be, right? I like to see myself as a business owner, someone who's reliable, someone who's timely, someone who's, I want to be this person that gets up early, right? I'm really known amongst my friends for being a night owl. I will be up till 2 in the morning, and I'm not a morning person. Definitely do not talk to me in the morning. It doesn't matter if I have coffee or not. I'm just not a morning person.
God.
But I'm also, if I wake up late, I'm also subject to a lot of distractions because the whole world is up before me. Therefore, I'm waking up to messages, emails, and I'm just trying to catch up all the time.
Mhm.
So I start by getting up earlier and by doing my bed. And if I'm the person that gets up early and does my bed, I'm already the person that I'm trying to be, which is disciplined, more time managed. It's like all these little things add up. It's like now you actually are envisioning this person that you're trying to be. You are the person. And that's the other thing is some clients, so when I tell them like you're athletic, you're so fit, and they're like, no, I'm not. I'm like, what do you mean? You literally come here 3 times a week, you eat your vegetables, you eat your protein, you get your sleep, like you're fit by the standards compared to everyone else. You're doing great, actually.
Yeah.
But it's just getting that like shift in the mindset too.
No, I completely agree. So I want to switch a little bit, transition topics a little bit. You mentioned how you competed in a powerlifting competition.
I did.
I'm very curious about more specifics on that.
Sure. What do you want to know about that?
The process, how you went about it, when you did that, whatever you want to share about it.
Sure. I mean, I guess so. When I was doing, obviously, when I got into fitness, it was a lot of bodybuilding-ish kind of stuff because I was focused on aesthetics. But then there was an interesting change on like, so also social media was really popular, and I had started posting my, fitness journey on Instagram, and I started following other people who posted stuff, and I went from having this. So backstory, I had orthorexia, which also led to anorexia at one point, and I was trying to shift my view on my body and like what I wanted, right? I'm like, okay, I don't want to be this stick thin figure that's just skin and bones. I'm seeing these other girls lift weights and they have beautiful, like bodacious booties, completely curvy bodies that are so strong. And I'm like, I want that. Like, I want to do that. And all of them are lifting really heavy weights. And a lot of them happen to be power lifters. And my sister at the time was also into fitness, and she had kind of taken the first step and started lifting heavier, and she was into deadlifting. And I was like, oh, I guess I can try that. Like, if my twin can do it, then I must be able to do it. Right. So I did. And then next thing you know, I'm having people compliment me and my achievements. And they're like, you're tiny, but you're strong. You should really consider competing. And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I follow all these other people. I could never be like that. And then one day I was like, no, but I can, right? Because I was also this person that was sitting on my butt in front of a computer and just drawing and eating chicken McNuggets. And now I'm literally a personal trainer who's fit and lost all this weight and eats healthy. So why can't I be a powerlifter? So I saw there was a competition coming up in Orlando, which is where I was living at the time. And I signed up for it. I purchased the belt. I purchased like the whole gear that you needed to wear. Um, I trained. I did like a powerlifting split, trained the big lifts. Unfortunately, the week before the competition, I had a really bad back injury. But I don't know if it was adrenaline or something, but the day of the actual competition, I had zero pain. It like was not non-existent. My back was fine. Um, and I showed up at the competition. I met so many nice people. Girls were super friendly. Like everyone was there to compete, but at the same time, it's like very uplifting. Like we all just want everyone to show their best and put their best out there. And I just coached myself. So I didn't have a coach. And it was awesome. Like I was probably like 115 pounds at the time. And I was deadlifting like 175, I think. I forget what my squat was. I think it was like 150 or 160. Um, and I was the tiniest girl in my weight class. So I think it was like only one or two other people. So I ended up winning. Not a big deal to me because it was just like, it was me versus two other girls, but it was still a great experience nonetheless. It was probably one of the best competitions I would ever recommend in the fitness world because it's you versus yourself. Yeah, there's other people in there too, but really you're trying to get all your strength out there on that platform and give it your all.
Mm.
And everyone's really supportive. I still have friends from that day, which was like in 2020. So, no, not 2020. I'm sorry. I was 20. So 7 years ago. I still have those friends, which is nice. It was a great experience. I would definitely, if I could go back in time, I would say eat more and get a coach because I thought I knew everything and I didn't.
That makes sense. Congratulations, though. That's so exciting that you won.
Thank
Even if
you.
there were only two other people, that's exciting.
Yeah, it was. I was really stoked about it. I wish that, I had friends in my family around because I had moved to Florida at the time, but I was able to share it online and tell them everything about it. So it still felt really good. It was awesome. One and done though. I just did one competition. I was like, I'm good. I got it out of my system. I
So you wouldn't compete again?
don't really have an interest now.
Okay.
That could change. Who knows?
No, that is true. That is true. So I'm curious, how did you make that identity shift from you are a power lifter and you can't compete in a competition to then realizing you could?
I wish I had the answer for that question. I don't know. I think it was more so like little by little, like seeing other people. So it was great. It was like Instagram was really popping. It was brand new and people were sharing all their fitness journeys. And I had
Mm.
seen girls who looked like me doing what I wanted to do. And I'm like, oh, she's kind of small too. And, well, I'll talk to these girls and like they'll root for me and I'll root for them. And I'm like, wow, that's really cool. I guess I could try it out. So I guess it's really the shift started happening when I had cheerleaders. I might not have been rooting for myself at the time to do it or pushing myself to do it, but between the people that I met on Instagram that were looking like me and doing the thing that I wanted to do, as well as like, my own sister, she's like my biggest fan all the time. I love her to death. And seeing her do it, I was like, she didn't compete. She was just lifting heavy. And I was like, let's try that. So I guess, yeah, that was like how it made it shift. And I guess I could thank social media for that and all the girls out there who rooted for me. So I'm like a girl's girl for sure. I'll root for anybody. I'll support anybody, any small business, whatever you want to do. Okay. So I just want to return the favor.
Oh, no, I think that's great. That's so sweet. I
Thanks.
really do. So you mentioned, and you might not have an answer for this question. I will preface it with that. But you mentioned a few times about how you're just trying to figure out your way in the world like everybody else is. Do you have any tips, suggestions, advice for anybody else listening that's trying to figure out their way in the world?
Oh, man.
It's
That,
okay if you don't.
yeah, yeah. I think following your intuition is probably one of the best advices that I can give. I obviously some people's gut feelings are not, they're questionable, but I think for the most part, we ignore our gut feeling and our intuition, right? With logic and reasoning or oh, I couldn't do that, that's too hard, or I don't have the money, or I don't have the experience, like I'm not ready. You'll never be ready. You'll never have the experience if you don't even try to get the experience. And you really don't know until you try, you know? So, and I was in a position where I was young. I had support. I had my family my parents that I was living with. And they constantly reassured me, like, if you choose this and it doesn't work out, that's okay. Like you're you're just figuring it out. So if you feel like there's a calling to something, but you're just a little bit insecure or not sure, sit with that gut feeling and intuition and really like just write down what you think your life could look like in that position. Do you like your life like that? No. I for a while I was like, do I continue with personal training or do I pursue a business degree? I had a really hard time with it and I went in circles with my family. And then I was just like, I like working with people. I like training people. That was when I was at my happiest and I want to continue. So I'm going to move forward with it. And life has just taken me into that route and I just keep following it. Honestly, it's almost like happy little accidents that are not really accidents. I kind of put myself in a position and then I just fall into it. But I definitely think the biggest thing is intuition and gut. Don't be afraid. Don't let fear get in the way. Like life's too short. Life's too short to be scared to live and do the thing that could be like the best thing for you. So, yeah.
Thank you. That was a
Absolutely.
great answer. That was great.
Thanks.
No, that
Thanks.
was I agree intuition is very powerful, but that was very informative. So thank you.
You're welcome. I hope that it helps anybody, including maybe you.
I was taking mental notes. I was.
Nice.
So I think you kind of already answered this, but I'm going to ask it anyways because you might have a different answer than what I'm thinking it is. But a lot of people talk about an aha moment or a moment where something just clicked for them. Maybe there was a different life experience with something, they made a shift in their life. They realized something different about themselves, something different about the world around them. Would you say you've had an aha moment?
Hmm. I don't know. Can't say I think I've had like a eureka aha moment other than that day where I was in college class and I was like, this isn't it. That's like the most clear cut aha moment I have. Because I literally walked out of the lecture that day, cried, composed myself, went back into the lecture. And then I was like, I'm going to finish this class and I'm going to call my parents. I'm going to tell them everything. I'm going to drop out the next day, which I did. I knew exactly what I wanted in that moment. But ever since then, everything's just kind of been like, I'm like 70 to 80% sure that I want this. I'm going to try it because that's better than being 30% sure.
That's true. I would say that that's kind of an aha moment. Your story with the classroom and then leaving and then dropping out of college the next day. I
Yeah,
I would say that's kind of an aha moment.
I would say so. That's the only one I could think of. I remember it clear as day still, which is crazy.
And to an outsider hearing it for the first time, it sounded to me, I was like, she answered this question.
Yeah, I guess I did. I'm sorry I keep doing that.
No, you're totally fine. You're totally fine. So I have one more question for you.
Okay.
So I kind of wanted to approach podcasts in a way of not only having questions from myself, but having some questions from basically an outsider. So I asked my best friend to come up with a question that I could ask any podcast guest. She had no idea who I would be asking this to and see their response. So her question is, what has been the best decision you've made in your life up until now, in your opinion, and why?
Hmm. Career wise or like any decision?
In general, any decision you've ever made, first thing that comes to mind is in terms of your best decision?
Um, I'm I'm going to go with the career decision because that's what's standing out in my head. My best decision was going solo and like working for myself.
Mm.
Yeah. In the fitness industry, it's tough because you are in a man's world, first of all. Most corporate gyms are run by men. Very, very few, far and few between to see a woman running a gym. So I've had male bosses, very bad experience with male bosses, usually. Um, and I was just so sick of it. I was like, I'm just gonna work for myself because I can't run into problems if I work for me. And it's been like a catalyst for so many other beautiful things in my life, like opening my own gym. So once I left the corporate gym world, I think my life was only going uphill from there. Yeah. It also teaches you a lot about yourself. Like I'm responsible for me entirely now. So
Sure.
it was a cool shift in my life.
That's great.
Thanks.
So, I did say that was my last question, but I
Ask
am
away.
I am just a little bit curious about if you can tell the listeners a little bit more about what you do at your gym. You own a gym, you're a personal trainer. If you could just elaborate on types of clients you have, types of what you offer at the gym, and etc. like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So what I do, so as a personal trainer, I have two options, which is one-on-one training, right? Just me, a client, and we spend an hour working out together. I um, show them how to do everything, and I write them a whole month's worth of workout plan, like a workout plan. And every month I update it um, based on how they're doing. Sometimes I'll update it within that month if they're progressing really fast. But I do that. And then I also will give them nutritional guidance. I'll tell them like, hey, if your goal is this, and that, we got to get you eating more protein. Why don't you try this for breakfast or try doing this for dinner? Or, why don't you buy this? I think this would be really convenient for you. So I do offer nutritional counseling with the personal training sessions. And then I also do semi-private training, which some people know as small group training. And that's basically there is 4 or 5 people at a time at my gym, and I'm training all 4 of them, but they all have their own program. So before anyone starts, I evaluate every client. I get to know them, their needs, how they move, and I build them a custom workout plan. And so during the semi-private sessions, those people, they walk in, they all start their warm-ups that I prescribe them, and then we just start doing the workouts. So some people are pretty good and sufficient, like they only need a couple of tweaks here and there, or they'll maybe a little bit of suggestions for me to like up the weight. Then there's other people who need a lot of more attention, and that is perfect, right? I kind of hop around from client to client and tweaking everyone who needs me to do that. While doing so, everyone's just getting along, cracking jokes. It's great. I love it. It's probably one of the best things ever. But those clients as well, they also get nutritional guidance. And what's nice about the semi-private is that we'll talk nutrition amongst a crowd, like the 4 people, and oftentimes people will throw in ideas or whatever they're liking that they're doing, and so it becomes a very collaborative effort at that point. But regardless, to say, for everyone that's with me, I help them get a custom workout plan catered to their goals, usually fat loss. Some people are trying to build muscle and get stronger. Usually it's my male clients, some females, but I definitely prioritize fat loss. And they're all just regular people, like your mom that works, a position at the front desk, or a nurse. Actually, I have a couple nurses that I train. I have a restaurant employee. Like, nope, I lied. I have a couple restaurant employees. So really, just the average person who's just trying to, look good and feel good, and I help them in that way. I also have some online clients. So I have clients that I train that are not within my area. I have like a girl in Connecticut right now. I train her. She's killed it. She looks amazing. She's on her A game. I love it. And we do weekly calls. I'll check in on her every week and say, how did this workout go this week? Do you need any tweaks? How's your nutrition? How's your period treating you? Like all the little things like that. So a lot of I'm pretty hands-on as a coach. Like it's not just the hour that I spend with them. I'm texting them every day, if not every other day. So yeah, that's what I do. And I love it. It's the best thing ever.
That's great.
Yes.
So I'm curious, are you accepting more clients currently? Are you not?
Yes, I'm definitely accepting clients. My afternoons are getting pretty booked. I'm working till like 7:30 or 8 most days. But I am accepting new clients for sure.
Okay.
Always. I have a hard time saying no. I mean, I have a really good amount of clients right now, so I should probably put a hold on it soon, but I really can't say no to anybody.
I gotcha. No, I get that completely. And the gym you own, that is located in Fall River, Massachusetts, correct?
Yes. So I'm located in Fall River. It's on 418 Kikashan Street. Really hard to spell and pronounce, but it's actually located really, it's right under this awesome parkour movement academy. It's called AMP. It's pretty sick. And there's also a dance studio next door. It's really cool. It's like a little fitness building.
Oh,
Yeah, there's a restaurant there too, but we'll just pretend that's not there. Yeah, so it's in the middle of Fall River. Come through if you ever want to check it out. I'd be happy to have anyone come check out the gym if they'd like or try a workout with me.
sounds good. Well, thank you so much for being on Manders Mindset. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate all of the knowledge that you shared with everybody. But if anybody is interested in connecting with you, where can they find you?
They can find me on Instagram or my website. So my website is ashleyfarias.com, ASHLEYFARIAS. Or they can find me on Instagram, which is underscore Ashley Farias underscore. I guess there's another Ashley Farias out there who took my name, so I had to put little funky marks there.
Okay, I will put that all in the show notes. So if any of you would like to connect with Ashley, learn a little bit more about fitness and her journey, you can do so. But thank you again so much for being on the show. Before we close out, is there anything else you want to let the listeners know?
Oh, I don't know. I feel pressure. I don't know what to say. I'm gonna go blank.
Yes,
Um,
it's okay. You don't have to say anything.
I'll say, you know what? Thanks for listening, and I hope this is fruitful for anybody that's listening. If you're listening to this podcast, you're probably trying to work on whatever it is you're working on. So kudos to you.
That is very true. That is very true. So thank you again, Ashley, for being on the show. And thank you all for listening to another episode of Manders Mindset. Until next time.